I think outside of my sobriety, one of the toughest things for me was forgiving myself, really forgiving myself, self-compassion. Boy, oh boy, nobody talked to me the way I talk to myself in here. I was abusive as hell to myself. When I would make a mistake, the things I would say, I would never say to another human being. But that's my negative sense of self that was built from childhood that just expanded to the point that, the biggest bully I had was the one I saw in the mirror. And that's what I had to let go of. And I had to find, inner peace with myself through the help of my healers. Unfortunately, the solution is what the problem is. The problem is I stopped trusting people early on. Like for me, I had a dad that was an alcoholic, and when he came home late at night, he would hurt people. He hurt my mother and me, and so between the two, between being molested and between having a family, I couldn't share my pain. When a child feels like they don't matter, or a child feels like they're not loved, it's not their parents they stop loving, it's themselves they stop loving. And that message is ingrained and is carried on and sabotages all the happiness in the person's life. So for me, I had that decision where I had to get help. I had to stop drinking down poison and hoping everybody died because I was an angry, angry guy. And it was my wife and kids leaving me that really created the willingness, if you will, the desire to look under those unswept corners of my life and look at my brokenness. And boy, was I broken. Trusting others when you come from my kind of childhood is not something you're going to ever feel like doing. You're not, because you're going to time travel. That's what I call it. You're going to look at your healers of the present and believe that they're going to hurt you like your higher powers did in the past. And you got to get through that, because they could be as different as night and day intellectually. But emotionally, when you start to become transparent and intimate with people, when you've been hurt, molested, and abused, your time traveling is going to show up whenever somebody tries to get to that inside piece, like I said, that fragmentation piece, and you're going to push them away. I was lying to my therapist. Why would I pay a therapist and lie to my therapist? Because I was so afraid that somebody would see that defective part of me and run away and reject me, that I was time traveling. What I learned in school that was really important for me to understand egocentricity. When I was a kid and my father was drinking and not coming home and hurting people, I never said to myself, gee, my father suffers from alcoholism. I said to myself, what's the matter with me? Something's wrong with me, and my father wouldn't be doing this. See, that negative sense of self sticks with us our whole life unless we start to allow ourselves to trust other healers to heal those wounds inside. I went to school, I had my master's degree, but because I was in a 12-step fellowship for many years, when I came out, already I had my profession set. I had many, many clients that were coming to me. And it was I'd say about 20 years ago. I was a businessman. I was in the world of business. I was making a fortune and destroying myself with two fortunes with my addiction. And about 20 years ago, I decided, I had two goals. One was to help other people that suffer as I did from negative childhood messages. And my other goal really was to give my children what I never had as a kid. And that was a safe place, a place where they could share their feelings, a place where, they could cry in front of me. And I put my arm around them. For me as a kid, if I showed emotion, my father called me as a little girl. That's the message I got. And, I remember one time, we had to put a dog to sleep, and my son was 13 years old, and he was very distraught. And I walked in his room. I said, "How you doing, Tommy?" He said, "I'm doing okay, Dad." But I knew there was more I had to do. I knew I had to give him something else. I went and I put his arms around me, and I put his head on my chest. And after a few seconds, he just started to cry, and he just let it all out. Jim, I knew at that time I was giving my son a safe place, a place to cry in his father's arms. I never had that place as a kid. It's really not just about the 12-step program. It's really about learning to feel good enough about ourselves to share our feelings. It's learning how to be empathetic to other people. It's learning how to put boundaries down. When we feel that we're not important, instead of running away like a 10-year-old scared kid or raging as I did in anger, like a 15-year-old a nut. One of the things I want to tell people out there that are afraid to reach out to others and to get help is, if you don't, even if you are an alcoholic and you found a way to stop drinking by yourself, or you're a gambler and you started, if you don't fix what's broken inside of you, you're going to switch seats in the Titanic. You'll find some other mechanism to sabotage your life. So it really is looking at the brokenness inside, not at the surface stuff, at the brokenness inside. It's healing, and healing is a we process, as I said before, and you're not going to feel like doing it. Okay. There's nobody that feels like walking into a therapist or a room or a healer or a retreat and telling them all of their deepest, darkest secrets. Nobody feels like doing that. So don't wait until you feel like doing it, because it'll never happen. Take that leap of faith. Find people that you feel safe with and comfortable with, and trust a process. Here's a biggie. I never trusted a process that I couldn't control. And the reason why is because if I couldn't control it, I never trusted that it would work. When you reach out to others and allow them to heal you, you can't be in control of that process. They're your healers. They're in control of that process. And you are not responsible for the wounds that you received in childhood. But I say this with love. You are responsible for healing those wounds for you, or you'll never find peace and happiness. And you deserve it, even if you're not telling yourself that.